Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. I'm Reed Price. With us today, Ann Lovejoy and friends. I see Barbara and Marcy and Rita. We're going to talk about gardening, and we have a little fashion show from the garden to show as well. But first, I want to thank Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island for sponsoring Something to Talk About. Fieldstone offers independent living, assisted living, and memory care up on Rolling Bay. They have day stay and respite care programs as well. To find out more or to get a tour, which could include lunch or dinner free, call Sierra Wood or Randy O'Neill. The phone number is 206-594-1010. And the website, fieldstonecommunities.com. Also, I want to acknowledge that we are meeting and living on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water who have made their home since time immemorial on the shores of the Salish Sea. And we are grateful for their stewardship, and we hope to learn, we should be dedicated to learn how to be better stewards ourselves of these lands and waters. Thank you, Ann and Rita, you probably were out there working in the garden earlier today, weren't you?
We were, and here's Anita coming to join us too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a lovely, on the third Wednesday of every month, we do hands-on gardening here at the center. And there's always something to do, even if you don't feel like your skills are tip-top. Doesn't matter at all. If you're willing to learn and to do a little schlepping and hauling and reading, then we're so happy to have you. Or even if you just want to stand around and ask questions, that's fine too. But before we get started, we do have an announcement to make that this is Reed's birthday. And I think we all need to say happy birthday to Reed.
Birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, dear Reed. Right?
Thank you very much.
Right?
Happy
I can take
birthday
that.
to you.
And as many more as you want. Yes.
And
Right.
I hope they stop when I want them to.
That can be arranged. So one of the things we've been noticing is that it's hot and dry. You probably hadn't noticed that, but those of us who are real gardeners, it's so dry. And it's been really interesting to see how quickly some things have failed when we thought, oh, we got that 1/4 inch and then we got a 1/2 inch of rain. Surely that was enough. Well, for some things it was, and for other things it was not. And so being super vigilant anymore, these years, we have to be really aware that the soil is dry all the way down, because it's easy to think you've watered and splashed a little on there, but unless you're watering really deeply and really, really well, they're probably not getting enough. On the other hand, we do find that there's a number of plants that they thrive without us. They thrive on benign neglect. And some of those are my favorite kind of plants. And actually, we put together a little slideshow for you to show you some of the things.
This is the slideshow of benign neglect. Okay.
Yeah, the slideshow of benign neglect, things you can feel perfectly okay about not paying a lot of attention to.
Okay. So let me see if I can get that thing going. I have to.
And I'm not sure I took a picture of this, but one of my primo candidates is always oregano.
Okay.
Right? All the different oreganos. If you come to the senior center and take a look at the front garden, there are at least 6 or 7 different kinds of oregano in that garden, pink and lavender and purple and white. And they're all covered with pollinators all the time. And they're super easy to please and really hard to dismay. So there you go.
Okay. Shall we start with the picture one?
Picture one. So California poppies. These are native all the way up into the San Juan Islands, not just California, but really coastally. And of course, as the weather warms up, they're climbing even further north. But these are such sturdy, hardy, they're annuals, but they're also somewhat perennial in that they keep coming back for years and years and years. They sow themselves, and they usually stay in bloom much of the year if you trim back the old flowers that are spent and don't let them seed too much, because they'll spend all their energy throwing that seed around, which is great. But if you trim off quite a bit of it, then you'll still get blooms often well into winter. You can see them blooming in November and December sometimes. So these are really sturdy. They also come in beautiful colors like cream, And there's one called Cafe au Lait. And there's some there's a Thai silk blend that's rose and pink and lavender and even a sort of a purple, rosy purple. So they're not just the orange and yellow for people who don't like orange and yellow. I can't imagine, but there are some. There are there are some other strains that you can purchase seed of. I know Bainbridge Gardens has some of the Thai silk ones, and I think actually Ed Hume has some of those. So even at like the Safeway kiosk, you probably could find them there.
So anywhere that you can just basically sprinkle them anywhere you want and they'll show up everywhere else.
Well, you want them, what they really like is hot, dry, and being ignored. So that's really covers quite a lot of places.
Yeah.
They love to be alongside a driveway, alongside of a reflected heat area. And like I said, even if they are literally spent out, you can cut them back pretty hard and they'll come back from the base and then be blooming all fall and into the winter. So yeah, pretty much anywhere. And they do throw their seeds around, but you can also throw their seeds around because they have these long, curvy little seed pods. And when they split open, they throw their seed, which is kind of cool. You can sometimes you can hear it if you're right next to it. It goes pop, yeah, pop. And if you gather them just before when you can see the slit on the seed pod, but it hasn't opened yet, then you can crack it open somewhere and sprinkle them around. But if you open the seed pod while they're green, it will never ripen. So wait till they turn nice and brown.
That's good to know. And I know that the yellows and the oranges seem to be proliferating. They're particularly, they're all over my yard. I'll tell you that. But that must be because it's hot and dry there.
Well, and this is also, as Anita just pointed out, a really good plant for children. They really enjoy sowing seeds and having something exotic and fun happen. And, it's hard to miss. So yeah, you can give the kid a handful of ripe seed pods and they can sprinkle them around. And, within, a season, there'll be little plants there. And the fall is a great time to sow these seeds for spring because they'll start sprouting and growing through the winter. And then by spring, they'll be ready to bloom, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. Okay, shall we go to the next?
Sure. So this is two things, actually. It's a sedum and a hyssop. And hyssop is a medicinal herb. It's that silvery, funny looking thing sticking up on the top. But the sedums are really rock steady in all sizes and colors. And they don't care at all if there's a drought because they come from hot, dry, sunny places. And the only thing you have to worry about with these big ones is the deer. They do like them. And I've heard that rabbits maybe, but for most, they're spready and they're prolific enough that you'd take a rabbit a really long time to eat them all.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are great. And they come in different sizes from ground huggers up to about 18 inches. And they bloom in late summer into the fall. And sometimes they hold their seeds and the goldfinches really like to come and eat their seeds. And that's a pretty sight in the winter time.
And repeat the name.
It's sedum. This one I think is sedum autumn joy.
Oh,
It's kind of hard to tell because actually when they're blooming, most of them look a lot alike. There was a big hybridization movement in the 80s and 90s. And there's probably 50 of them and they all kind of are pink. So yeah.
they might dry as well.
Yeah, they do dry. You can do the glycerin thing too, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Anita's asking if they come in other colors and that they do sort of. I mean, there is a white one and there's one red, it's supposed to be red that's called Indian Chief. But the thing is, it's sort of like the Achilles, the yarrows. They bloom in a certain color and then they start fading.
Right.
And they all kind of fade in the same way. And so after they're off their peak, it's pretty hard to tell which one it is. But they're all pretty and they're all really, really easy. And this is the kind of plant that if you pull a stem and toss it on the ground, it will start rooting on the little petioles where the leaves are.
Right.
It starts making baby plants. And if you just leave it there and push it down a little bit, it will, it'll grow a whole new crop of little babies.
And Rita, were you talking about putting them in dried arrangements?
Oh, yes.
Anita.
Yes, I think I have done that, Reed. Drying it, probably just, it's been a while back, but cutting, so it has a stem, hanging it upside down for a while and let it dries, and then putting it in winter arrangements, in dried arrangements.
Or a wreath on a covered
yes,
porch. They look really pretty on a wreath
Mhm.
because they retain a little of that rosiness.
Mhm.
And so sort of a subtle holiday wreath, it'd be nice.
Yeah, and a nice texture.
Yeah.
contrast.
I can see that.
Okay, this one is called Romnea coulteri, or the Madalea poppy, or the fried egg flower. You can sort of see why. And these are tough as nails. They come from Mexico and Southern California, and they're grown along the highway strips down in California because they're so sturdy. And they, again, hot, dry, sunny, neglect, crappy soil, they're happiest clams. They do get pretty big. We've had them at the library for, oh gosh, 15 years, I think. And they get about 3 feet tall for us. And they bloom through the late summer into the fall, and somewhat, even a little tiny bit in the winter time. They're surprisingly hardy. They don't freeze. The one thing they don't like is being moved.
Mhm.
So if you want them in another place, what you do is take you can take cuttings off them in like March or October and shove them in somewhere, and most of them will root, which is kind of nice. Just put a note to remind other people not to pull it up.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Do people put them in bouquets?
They're not great pick flowers. They're not very good cuts. You can put them in a bouquet for the day, but they're not good the next day or
Okay.
even that afternoon, probably.
Okay.
So, yeah. Ask me how I know that.
Yeah, well, because they were so cool. You thought, I'm going to put these in too, and they were gone.
Well,
So,
And some poppies you can actually seal because all poppies are pretty short-lived in as a cut flower. But some of them you can seal the base by dipping them really briefly into really hot water, or some of the English flower arrangers say they take a match and seal the bottom.
Yeah.
Which, I think I've had varying success with that. But none of them are really long-lasting.
and what about their seed activity?
Well, they're not as apt to throw their seeds around, and the seeds don't germinate as well here as the California poppy seeds do. So I don't remember ever seeing a seedling that actually made it. But like I said, if you cut some of the new stems, unflowered stems, the ones that haven't borne a flower already, those you can cut in October, November is a really good time for doing cuttings, and also February, March. So either one, and you can literally stick them just right side up in the soil where you want in the plant, and usually they will. Joe Dietz. Sorry, Joe, but no. They will usually root, which is kind of cool. And the thing is, they hate to be disturbed. So I used to try to put them in a pot and then plant the pot. Well, they don't really like that. So it's better to put them in a place, put a marker around it so you remember, and then let them do their thing where you want them. So one of the oreganos, yeah, this is a rosy one. I think this one's called Hopley's Purple. And there are a number of oreganos here at the center. We have quite a few. Some of them are the mountain oreganos from Greece, and there are Italian oreganos and, from all over the Mediterranean basin, all colors from white to dark purple. And they're really, really long blooming, and they all bloom forever, it seems like. And then some of them make a evergreen mat at the base. Those are the ones you and I like the best, right?
Yes,
Because it looks good even in the wintertime.
yes.
But some of them don't. And so when you cut them back, they're just like a little snaggle of dry stuff there. But these are absolutely the pollinator best ever,
Mhm.
don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yes. Yes, there's always bees on them.
Yeah.
Like
And one of the
those.
cool things is you can put these in an arrangement and they last so long that you'll be changing every other flower out and reusing
Wow.
them over and over. They're really excellent. And you just, of course, strip the lower leaves off.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, they're really good.
and as they dry, they change and they're great. And the birds just kind of like to pick their seeds.
Yeah, it's so
And
cute.
so they're lovely. There's a lot of things you can do with them over a long period of time.
And crafting. This is
So
another
once they're
really good-
once they're established, they're not going to need a lot of water.
they don't need anything from you at all once they're established. And we watered the first
Yeah.
2 years, I think, because we put them in we put them in Earth Day. So we put them in April. We had to water that year. The second year we did water a fair amount.
Right,
And that was it, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
We
They don't
haven't
need
watered much this
pruning?
year.
They need pruning at the end of their life. I mean, you look at them in November and you're like, okay, you're pretty done here. But you never have to, if you cut them back, and like Rita said, the birds really like those little seeds. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's worth just, you know,
leaving 'em
yeah,
till March.
exactly.
Mhm.
Only cut them back when you need to, because the birds are going to enjoy them for many months in the winter.
And you know, birds in the winter in the garden are the best. It's like bringing the life, you know, you see them
Yeah.
chirping around and they toss all the stuff around. If you do chop and drop, which we just did a bunch of today, which is cutting stuff that's passed out in and dropping it in place and letting it compost in on site. The birds get in there and ruffle it around and they help it break down,
Mhm.
which is really cool.
Were you going to say something about crafting with this? I thought I interrupted you.
Yeah. So have you done any?
Not with oregano.
Oh, you can this year. I give you
Yes.
permission, try some, because they're great in dried arrangements. And you can do, like also in wreaths, like undercover, they'll sog out and if they're
Okay.
exposed to rain, but, yeah, I think, and of course, the foliage is edible and fragrant, and there's so many different kinds. So there's actually oreganos that are specially bred to be barbecue skewers.
Oh,
Remember that one? I think we planted, it's called barbecue.
And
Yeah,
rosemary.
rosemary.
Rosemary, yeah.
Too, but there's oregano ones like that. And you'll find if you taste the leaves, they're all different and you might find different ones you like better. And they're delicious if you do like a seasoned salt. Like I was telling you, we're gonna do garlic, rosemary salt. You can do oregano, rosemary, and a little bit of, if you like a little bit of sage maybe, or a little fennel or something like that. And you grind it all up with sea salt and then bake it at 225 for like 15 or 20 minutes. And I do cup for cup of salt, cup of herbs, right? Not packed, but you know, enough.
Mhm.
And then grind them up and don't wash your Cuisinart because you're gonna break them, bake it off and it'll get crunchy. And then you put it back in and you grind it again and now it's stable,
Ah,
shelf stable for up to a year
wow.
if it's in a tight enclosed container. But what I always used to do is, because I was one of those clean as you go, so I'd do it, wash it, and then go, crap, now it's wet and I have to dry it so I can grind the. So I got a little sticky note that says no, and I put it on on my grinder so I don't get carried away.
Oh, that's
it sounds
funny.
like
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it sounds like it would make very nice gifts.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah.
I have been the happy recipient, Ann. Thank you.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
What do you
Delicious.
do?
Yeah.
I was going to say that one of my sourdough books says, you know, how you autolaze the flour and the water, and then you're going to add, and maybe you put in the starter, and then you're going to add the salt after 30 minutes or an hour. It says always put the salt out right there by it. Otherwise, you'll forget and go ahead and
Oh.
bake the whole loaf without any
Yep.
salt.
That's right. And it's funny because in Italy and in some areas, they don't use salt in the bread in some of the northern areas. It's
Mhm.
called asciupato. It means black salt and ick, right? Isn't that funny?
Aw.
Okay. Let's see, where's the next one?
So Russian sage, this isn't the greatest picture, but you'll see it all over town. And it's a perfect benign neglect plant. It does come from sort of the steppes of Russia and all those stands. And it blooms for a really long time. There's tall ones. This one's about 3 feet. There's short ones too. Little Prince is one of the shorter ones. It's only about 18 inches, but they have a very long bloom period from, gosh, we should say like June anyway, right?
Right.
All the way till, I don't think they lose color till, what do you think?
October.
Yeah, October, something like that.
Yeah.
And then they have these cool white stems. So they look like ghost stems. And I use them, like we do the ofrenda. We've all done that, helped make the pathway for the spirits at the art museum and for the Day of the Dead. And we're always collecting cool stuff that looks great dead, right? So there's gonna be oregano, there's gonna be, but Russian sage is definitely one of the ones that holds its form, and the white skeletal stems are really beautiful in an arrangement.
Right.
Oh, and in front, of course, is rosemary.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's another one that is a really, usually very tough, but rosemary is funny, but there's a lot of different hybrids. Some are very tough and others are not. Like, the trailing ones, what do you know, like
Irene.
Irene. God, how many times have we planted Irene and said goodbye?
Yes.
Because it's so beautiful. It cascades down a wall, then it gets cold.
Tiny
and
little
Yeah.
blue flower.
So
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
I
And then,
remember the first time I saw it along Winslow Way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
oh,
oh.
isn't that pretty? And then you
It's
go back
so-
and go, what happened here? Right? Yeah. So some are not that hardy. Also, some are completely intolerant of water. And so if they get watered, they start rotting, which is interesting because people are like, oh, the poor little thing, it's dry. And then you drown it and it's not very happy.
No,
But they can live 50 years and more. In fact, I've heard that they can live like 100 years, but I haven't seen them do that yet because I'm not that old. But we do have quite a few different kinds here at the senior center too. And at the library, we have a ton of them. And they're just a really beautiful, delicious, and rosemary for remembrance, rosemary's, there's a crafting one too, right?
Yes, yeah.
You can do so many things with dried rosemary. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful.
and if you go by and just kind of put your, put your hands on the leaves, your hands smell fabulous. You
Well,
just-
and the latest thing I read is that if you enjoy the fragrance of rosemary often, it's very good brain health
Oh,
for memory.
It really is. Isn't that
we're gonna
funny?
make a necklace out of it.
Actually, one of my friend's kid, when he was probably 9, taped a piece to his lip because he liked the smell of it so much.
Oh,
I just thought that was pretty adorable. But yeah, so
And of course, it gets a lot of attention too from insects and birds, right?
oh yeah, any of the hardy herbs is
Mhm.
really attractive. And one of the fun things, there's rosemaries that bloom pink, white, mostly blue and lavender though, and they all bloom at slightly different times, and some of them are winter blooming. And so you'll see that even in the middle of winter, there's those few, crazy insects that come out of hibernation on a sunny day, and they're like, right, score, here's something to eat. So yeah,
And generally better to plant from starts or
oh
from-
yeah.
and transplanting okay.
Yeah, actually, for a while, once they're really established and of a pretty good size, they're not gonna move for you, but when they're little, yeah,
Yeah,
they're fine. Yeah, they, and also if people like to shear them, that's okay for a while, but if you cut hard into the old wood, they call it, it's not really gonna come back very well. So it's better if you just let them be a beautiful shape that they want to be. You can trim them back by about 20% off the top. Same with lavender. And they will be bushy and nice and last a little longer. But yeah, if you take too much, that's all she wrote, right? They're not coming back.
So that sort of follows your guidance of think about what a plant wants to be and let it be.
Yeah, and put it where it can thrive. And again, a plant that loves benign neglect, likes to be next to a sidewalk or hear the reflected heat from street and sidewalk, and it's super happy. That's a good plant. Okay, so remember this is out front, and this is the red barberries. Where did we move them from? Up
we
here?
moved them from the back, I think.
Yeah, they were dotted around on the senior center. We gathered them all together and put them across the front, right? And
Right.
then that's golden oregano at its feet. And this is today. So this is what it's looking like right now, right? And the cool thing about those barberries is once they get established, like 2 or 3 years in and they got good roots, you don't have to water them. They are fine. Because they come from like Turkestan, right? Where people eat the berries and stuff. I know that's like a condiment sort of almost, right?
Right,
Uh,
and like capers.
yeah, kind of like that.
But they have thorns, right?
They do. But they-
Which keep the deer away.
So the deer don't eat them. And they have beautiful little flowers. They're small, they're really fragrant, really nice, pretty. And they're just a sturdy, these are called ruby gem, I think. They're little, they're compact, they're gonna get not much bigger than what they are, which is
No.
what, like 2 to 3, not even 3 feet, I don't think. Like,
I don't think so, yeah, because there's some that get huge,
yeah.
huge.
There are. We had some at the library that were brought from an expedition in some faraway country and somebody gave them to us as the coolest thing. It got like 10 feet across and had the biggest thorns of anything I'd ever seen. And it was lethal. And we ended up having to put on practically our hazmat suits and cutting in there and cutting away.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
And then take it out because it was just too much. But the little ones, the compact ones are great and they have that gorgeous color.
Yeah, they're gorgeous color that they keep all year round.
Yeah,
I still remember as a little child, some people in the village would grow this when they didn't want children cutting across their lawns.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It seemed so unneighborly.
Yeah, I've seen people do that with Osage orange too, right?
Oh,
Which is a native plant that has and it is in the orange family, I guess, sort of sketchuply, beautiful fragrant flowers and then thorns like you would not believe, right? And yeah.
the oranges are interesting and
Yeah.
supposedly keep spiders away. I don't know.
If so, I want another necklace of those, right? Because August is Spider Month.
Oh.
Haven't you noticed that? Like,
I never put two and two together, but that makes sense.
yeah, this is when they're
Yeah.
really busy. You start to see their
Yes.
webs everywhere. Yeah,
Okay.
and I used to carry a stick in my garden and kind of, you probably did
Swing
too in
it
your
around,
big garden,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, I mean, from one night to the next, right? They're back out there.
Oh, yeah. But if you're not looking and you're going the wrong way, you won't see the web and you get it right in the face.
Yes.
Right?
Oh,
So, yeah. the
So,
stick-
so it sounds like there are several varieties of barberries. And this one is lovely dark.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's many. In fact, some of the other ones I really like are the rockets, they're called, and they're tall, narrow. They get about 6 feet tall, but no more than about 2.5 feet wide. And I put them in the roundabout years ago, but they kept shearing them, so they never got to rocket. They just turned into blobs, but you know, life is short. So we just rescued some out of the roundabout and put them at the library. So hopefully they'll be shooting up. They're called Orange Rocket.
nice.
I know. We should, hopefully they will do something
Yeah.
there. But yeah, there's a lot of barberries, but the thing to think about is how big is it going to get? And think about where you want it, because this is a plant you don't want to back into when you're like reading or doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
Wearing shorts. So evening primrose is a native, and it's a long blooming. This is one of the hummingbird plants that is so beautiful. And you can see there's like tons of buds still going to open. The flowers don't last very long. They open like you would think in the evening, right? And then they last a day and fade, but then there's always more and always more and always more. And they appear in the long, big spires. A lot of people think they're weeds, and in the sense that you might not have planted it.
And they look like maybe they're trying to be gladiolas, but not quite making it.
Well,
Right.
you know, they do have a sort of primrose quality to them in a
Yeah.
way, right? And they're in that family. But and here they're surrounded by mint. And when we first started the gardens up at the library, we were given a huge collection that was called the Bed and Breakfast for Birds, Bees, and Butterflies, and it had a ton of mints, a ton of different mints, like 20 or 30 kinds of mint. And they opened the clay soil for us, which was
Oh.
impenetrable. It was horrible soil. So we actually had a worm party when we got our first worm, right? Because it was like the soil is now, yay. But the mint still pops up here and there, even though we try to control it. But it's so beautiful. And again, you cannot find a more attractive pollinator plant than
Right.
any of the mints.
Hmm.
And didn't I give you one of those little Cretan mints, the little Greek mint that's so with tiny leaves?
I think so, yes.
It's a cocktail mint, they call it, because, yeah, I think I gave you one.
Yeah.
They, it has almost a floral fragrance to the foliage,
Hmm.
which is beautiful, and really tiny leaves because it comes out of the rocky cliffs of Crete, right?
Right.
But wow, that one is so yummy, and it is something that's used in a lot of high-end fancy cocktails for good reason. Oh, so I took this morning because I was cutting away the old catmint stems because they're all kind of bloomed out and they're 3 feet long. And at the heart of every one, they've already refreshed themselves without water, and they're starting to rebloom. And this is a catmint, nepeta, is one of those sturdy, reliable, great garden plants that thrives on benign neglect. And again, once you get it in, I'd say 2 years
Mhm.
to water, and then you really don't have to. And I've been so impressed at the way they've refreshed
Right.
themselves.
I was surprised that this new stuff was coming up
It's
because
blooming already, right?
Wow.
You're like, wow. So maybe that half-inch of rain we got did something for these guys.
Okay.
But they have not been watered.
I have so much trouble telling catmint from Russian sage.
Oh,
Is it?
well, so the Russian sage has this very erect, stiff, silvery stems, and the leaves are gray-green and kind of cut leaf on the edge. Whereas catmint is soft and billowy and it makes a big billow.
Exactly, because the Russian sage is more of an upright plant, and then the flowers we'll go out there and take a look. They're very structured.
Yeah,
The flowers are, and they're up above,
like a spear.
like a spear almost, yes.
Well, I'll try to remember that. Up by the diner on the corner, Winslow and coming down here, there's something that's one or the other. And it's kind of flopping over, but it seems stiff. So I don't know if it just is
Well,
Russian sage.
Here's the
falling
Russian
over.
sage. Thank you, Ree. Yeah, so if it got a lot of water and it got rained, because the sidewalks, it often rushes down and collects. And so it might have gotten a lot of water, which kind of destabilizes it and they do flop. But you'll see them around town on a lot of street corners, I'd say, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Usually with Rudbeckia, those little
Mhm.
brown-eyed Susans and grasses, because that was really popular in the 80s. But boy, they're enduring. They really, they last a really long time. But so the catmint is going to be a little billowy pillow plant instead.
Okay.
Something a little,
I like that. Okay.
The flowers are much smaller.
yeah, and they bloom, you can sort of see they're lax. The stems want to sort of throw their arms out.
Yeah, okay.
But these are also hummingbird plants as well
Yes.
as bee, and pretty much everybody likes these, right? And they are in the mint family, so that's part of why it's so hardy. So they got the square stems, and.
Mhm.
but,
Presumably you can cut some off for a cat too.
Well, it's not catnip. So it isn't really the same thing, though they are closely related. My cats have never been very interested in catmint, but one of the
try it.
things. I know, well, I think I have, and I don't think they care. But they come in different sizes. And so you can get like Walker's Low is maybe, or there's a couple that are like 8 inches or 12 inches, and some like Six Hills Giant is actually almost 4 feet. It's huge. So you want to be pretty sure what you got before you put it in your bed, because
Yeah,
it might surprise you in a way that you weren't intending, because it is a flopper. So it's
These all sound like wonderful things if you're trying to naturalize part of that green grass and turn it into something more
Mhm.
interesting and less work.
Exactly. And one of the fun things you can do with those plants, because they do have a base, is to plant little bulbs around the skirts, because they'll be covered in the summer and then dry, which is what bulbs like. They like to dry out.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, speaking of bulbs, don't we have one more bulb picture?
Yeah, let's see if I can call that up. I couldn't, it wouldn't, let's see if I can make it big. There we go. Okay, now. There's your bulb.
Yeah, there
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
So a friend of mine who has a CSA farm gave me a couple cloves of this a few years ago, and it's called Magic. It's a fairly new hybrid, and it only makes big cloves. So you don't get all the little bitty bunch ones, and it's been fantastic. And they're very tasty. They're not as hot as some, but they're flavorful. And this is what I make the rosemary garlic salt with, right? But I love that, because all those little fiddly ones are kind of a pain, right?
yes.
But to bother to peel them, you can throw them in a soup or something, but yeah. So this is my favorite new garlic. It's lasts a pretty long time. And because these were organic, I could sprout them and plant them in my pea patch, which is what I did.
Mhm.
If you can sprout any kind of garlic, but make sure it's organic, like you can buy one at the grocery store.
I did. After you told me, I did. And
Yeah.
it's been doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just harvested mine a couple days ago. So yeah, this is a good
Catching them
time.
before they go to flower, right?
No, mine had flowered actually already. I find you can do that. I mean, if you get them fast enough, but also if they flower, one of the cool things about the flowers is they're full of little,
Yeah.
the seedlings,
Yeah.
right? So I bury the flowers halfway. Say, come on.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
it just
wondering
might work
right? So does anyone have any questions
after all that.
after all that?
We did have some good questions about the difference between catmint and Russian sage.
Yes, we did.
Didn't we cover that pretty well?
We did. Barbara, did you bring any questions today, or you're lurking and taking notes? That's good.
And I just want to say that with this change in like our summer this summer, it's been a little different for us here at the senior center with our gardens and our pea patches that some of us have, that plants are so forgiving. And so sometimes you just have to like cut them down and leave them and give them a little water and leave them alone. Don't be ripping everything out of the garden because it's amazing what comes back.
It's true.
So that's my little bit to say.
Like they
That's
hunker
good.
down.
Right now, exactly. Don't throw everything, just don't pull them out and throw it away. Just kind of clean them up and maybe give them a little food, little organic food, Dr. Earth, and give it a little water and give it a little time. And it's surprising how many things come back. Because when I first moved here from Southern California, I would go out and clean up the garden in March. And now I don't know how much, I pulled out that shouldn't have been. And then the next year I waited till Mother's Day. And if it didn't look like it was alive, then maybe I'd replace it, but it takes a while. So that's just my little bit.
It's a different cycle because you came from Ohio, right?
Yeah, yes.
And learning that the seasonality is pretty different.
Yes, it sure is. And then now it's changing too. So
Right.
yeah. But I wanted to thank you, Ann. This is just the perfect theme for me today because I'm trying and Reed for recording this because I'm trying to help my son. He lives in Shoreline and they have behind their fence, there's a strip of their property before a driveway, their neighbor's long driveway starts. And they've been talking about putting lavender in, but now they happen to like that, but I've been reading up on lavender and how it should be pruned a little bit.
Yeah.
And they need something with, is it called benign neglect?
Yeah.
So this gives lots of options.
Yeah, I would say the oreganos. We used to call those hell strips
Okay.
in Seattle because they'd be the sidewalk strips. And
Right.
they just burned to a crisp. And so I lived on Capitol Hill. And first I planted the ones down my street and then the roundabout and then around the corner. And people started going, what is that? What is that? But that's sort of a way to, in fact, that's how I started writing books. Because this editor from Sunset Magazine came to the door and he's like, who are you and what are you doing?
The whole neighborhood is talking about you.
Well, it's like, it was funny. It's just those places that are really hard to suit and you can't water, you can't get over there.
Right.
What's going to thrive?
Mhm.
And because our climate's changing, it really is. I'm thinking more and more that some of these rock steady, tough, enduring plants that do not need a lot of help are good ones. But size is important because if you get something too big for the space, then you really are tied to, you're going to have to deal with it.
Right.
But if you choose something that works for, the strip size and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Again-
so it sounds like that question about how tall is it going to be?
Yeah.
How is it going to, reach out over the pavement?
Right.
Keep having some interest throughout the year.
Well, the other thing
Yeah.
is with a strip like that, if you had it all oreganos, you could plant all kinds of spring bulbs.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Yes.
Because they will come up and do their thing and you don't want to cut them off too soon, but you can sort of fold them over and tuck them under as the oregano spreads around.
Mhm.
And then, they're persistent too, because they need they call it summer baking. They
Okay.
need to dry out. They don't like water in the summertime. Right?
Great. That sounds like a wonderful theme. And I'll be watching this again as well because I mean, I do, I am slowly taking up parts of my yard that are just, they just burn this time of year because I'm certainly not
Yeah.
going to water them.
Right.
And they would look much nicer if they were blooming. And I'm sure that the birds and the bees would appreciate it if I planted something since I don't, besides the dandelions that grow there.
Right? Well, take a look at the stuff and let us know which ones you like, because we will be dividing some of them in the fall. We're going to take out some of the ones that haven't thriven as well as they might, and then cut up some of the ones that are doing great, and we'll spread those around a little more. And that's
Mm.
kind of what you have to do. Gardens are never done.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, the never ending story. That's a garden. The never ending story, which is it's a great story
Right,
to never end, but you know, it's just one of those things.
all right. It's
So
not
I'm sure
for-
you'll be out here between now and then, but you can definitely catch Rita and Ann and maybe Anita on the third Wednesday at
Right.
10 a.m.
Yep, 10 to 12, and then come and join us for the chat at 1:30.
Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Another great session.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.